American expert on pulmonary illness, continues to lurk in the background. How many young people did Chopin infect by coughing during his lessons? At least 2 of Chopin's pupils were carried off by galloping consumption, the graphic description by which the final accelerated form of the disease was popularly known, while they were still young. Paul Gunsberg was only 12, and Carolee Filch barely 15 when consumption claimed them, although it is impossible to prove a causal connection with their teacher. In any case, mutual reinfection was a constant problem. But this in turn raises a further question. How was it possible that of the 6 people who comprised Mikołaj Chopin's household, 3 died of tuberculosis, while the other 3 remained immune? Chopin's mother, Justyna, and his sisters, Ludwika and Isabella, showed no symptoms. We know that individuals differ in their disposition toward tuberculosis, and their resistance to infection can protect them for long periods of time. Moreover, even after being infected, some sufferers may linger for years, showing hardly any symptoms, while others succumb quickly. Chopin and his young sister Emilia are textbook examples of such a difference. Emilia died within 2 years of first exhibiting symptoms of the disease. Her brother struggled against it for more than 20. Georges Sand lived on terms of closest intimacy with Chopin for 8 years, yet never contracted tuberculosis, and neither did her children, Solange and Maurice, who were his daily companions during the months they spent together in Majorca, and later during his frequent sojourns at Sand's country home in Nohant, at the very time that the disease was increasing its deadly grip on him. Such puzzles preoccupied the medical fraternity and led to competing diagnoses. Sir James Clark, Queen Victoria's physician and Chopin's consultant in Britain in 1848, held the erroneous view that tuberculosis was not an infection at all, but a predisposition, harmless for those in contact with the sufferer, an opinion described elsewhere in this volume as inexplicable. By contrast, the Spanish doctors who treated Chopin during his ill-fated trip to Majorca in 1838 were adamant that it was contagious. Such divergent views led to equally divergent treatments. Sir James Clark and his followers prescribed rest, sunshine, a dry climate, and fresh air for their patients. Go south was their watchword. The response of Chopin's Spanish doctors was dramatically different. They reported his infection to the authorities, which led to his bedding being burned, his furniture destroyed, and Chopin himself coming close to being quarantined because they feared contagion. His bizarre journey through the medical profession resulted in every conceivable remedy being prescribed to him along the way, including bleedings, leeches, and blisters, as well as an entire smorgasbord of diets and pharmaceutical products of dubious provenance. It continues to astonish us that Chopin consulted no fewer than 33 physicians during his short lifetime. His intimate connection with doctors of every shade and hue cost him a small fortune across the years, and helps to explain why he was sometimes short of funds. It remains to consider the effect that tuberculosis had on Chopin's creative output. We know that there were times when it was a simple inconvenience, and he could go about his daily business with energy to spare. But there were others when his activities came to a virtual standstill, because the leaden weight of his symptoms, chronic tiredness, incessant coughing, inflammation of the larynx, breathlessness, and neuralgia, proved to be such a heavy burden that he could not function. On the dreadful journey from Majorca back to the Spanish mainland, Georges Sand tells us, Chopin coughed up bowlfuls of blood. This was 10 years before he died. We have to regard it as a marvel that it was precisely during this final decade that he composed such masterpieces as the sonatas in B-flat minor and B minor, the F minor Fantasie, the Polonaise Fantasie, and the Barcarolle. During the last 2 or 3 years of his life, in fact, Chopin could not even climb the stairs and had to be carried by his manservant. And since the various medications prescribed for him by his doctors included opiates to suppress his other symptoms, the tranquilizer